Welcome back to another episode of SNEED-CAST Industry Update, our series that keeps you updated with our ever-changing industry. For those of you that have been watching the series for a while now, you know how this goes, but for those of you that are new, welcome. We'll be covering the latest in manufacturing, packaging, coating, sustainability, and much more. I'm your host, Alexa, and today we'll discuss topics ranging from the situation in the cold craft brew world heating up thanks to tariffs, to Trump's Liberation Day falling short on providing businesses freedom, to Albertsons being blamed for merger demise, and finally, is the U.S. scrambling to source eggs. So, starting off, from changing taste, America's craft brewing industry, a vibrant and growing sector, has faced significant challenges in recent years. With more than 8,000 craft breweries operating nationwide, this industry has become a cornerstone of the U.S. economy, contributing approximately $62.1 billion in 2021 and supporting over 2 million jobs. However, the combination of shifting consumer preferences and geopolitical developments, such as the trade wars initiated under the Trump administration, has placed many small and independent brewers under immense strain. These external pressures highlight the vulnerabilities of an industry already grappling with changes in market demand and rising operational costs. One of the most significant challenges for craft brewers stems from the aluminum tariffs introduced during the Trump administration's trade wars. Aluminum, which represents 30% of packaging costs for many brewers, is critical for producing cans, the packaging of choice for most small and mid-sized breweries. The 10% tariffs on imported aluminum caused the price of a standard can to increase by 1 cent. While this may seem small, for smaller brewers producing higher volumes, it translates to an additional $10,000 to $20,000 annually in production costs. These increased expenses come at a time when the average profit margin for small craft breweries is only 3 to 5%, leaving little room to absorb such financial burdens. The Brewers Association estimates that these tariffs have added $350 million in additional costs annually to the craft brewing sector. Bob Pease, CEO of the Brewers Association, remarked, "For smaller brewers, this is a crushing blow. Compounding these challenges, retaliatory tariffs from other countries have made American craft beer more expensive abroad, causing exports, which once accounted for around 2% of production, to decline." Adding to the strain, changing consumer preferences have further tightened profit margins. As more consumers shift toward healthier alternatives like seltzers and non-alcoholic beverages, some craft breweries have reported sales volume declines of up to 5% annually. These pressures underscore the precarious position of many small brewers within the industry. The financial impact of these challenges is staggering. With over 8,000 breweries producing approximately 7.1 million barrels of beer annually, the industry is a vital segment of the market. Direct employment within the craft brewing sector accounts for around 400,000 jobs, making it a major employer in the beverage industry. However, rising production costs and declining sales are jeopardizing this workforce, particularly in small and independent breweries that rely heavily on narrow profit margins to stay afloat. To alleviate these pressures, industry leaders are pushing for the removal of tariffs and advocating for more equitable trade policies. Removing the aluminum tariff would significantly reduce costs for brewers, helping stabilize their financial position. At the same time, many breweries are diversifying their offerings to appeal to shifting consumer tastes. Innovations such as craft seltzers and other non-traditional beverages showcase the creativity of many brewers seeking to adapt to market demands. Collaboration among brewers is also emerging as a solution to weather economic strain. By sharing resources or sourcing materials locally, breweries can reduce costs and improve efficiency. These efforts highlight the resilience and ingenuity within the craft brewing community, even amid challenging circumstances. The continued strain on craft brewers threatens the broader economic ecosystem they support. Beyond the breweries themselves, suppliers, distributors, and local communities could feel the ripple effects of brewery closures or job losses. The U.S. beer industry as a whole, which employs over 2 million people, relies heavily on the success of small and independent breweries to drive growth and innovations. Despite these challenges, the craft brewing industry has demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Between 2010 and 2020, the number of craft breweries in the U.S. grew from approximately 1,750 to over 8,000, fueling job creation and economic growth. This resilience is evident in the diverse product lines and persistent advocacy for supportive policies that aim to sustain this iconic and vital segment of the U.S. economy. As the industry navigates these challenges, the importance of addressing tariffs, evolving consumer preferences, and rising costs cannot be overstated. These efforts will ensure the ongoing success of America's craft brewing industry amidst a rapidly changing landscape. Moving on, the current state of trade policy has left businesses navigating an environment fraught with ambiguity. Efforts to restructure trade agreements have brought both promises on economic liberation and significant concerns about the ripple effects on global supply chains. The Trump administration's decision to impose tariffs on over $360 billion worth of Chinese goods has been a key driver of market uncertainty, with tariff rates on some products reaching as high as 25%, impacting industries from technology to agriculture. These measures have sparked widespread discussions among policymakers and business leaders regarding their long-term consequences. One of the critical shifts in the recent years included the imposition of a 25% tariffs on products like steel and aluminum aimed at bolstering domestic production. By the end of 2019, the average tariff rate on Chinese imports surged to 19.3%, up from just 3.1% in 2017. However, this trade significantly affected economic growth. U.S. exports to China dropped by nearly $30 billion, over 10% in 2019, while the global economy felt the strain, with GDP growth slowing to 2.9% in 2019 from 3.6% in 2018, according to the International Monetary Fund, known as IMF. Furthermore, the Peterson Institute for International Economics estimated the tariffs imposed by both the U.S. and China reduced global trade by approximately $730 billion annually. For American businesses, these trade policies have added substantial burdens costing approximately $3 billion per month in additional taxes, as reported by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Meanwhile, U.S. consumers face a cumulative tariff cost of $57 billion, translating to an average household burden of $460 per year. The ongoing uncertainty has left many companies hesitant to make strategic investments, with fluctuating costs and restricted market access hampering planning and growth. As one industry leader aptly put it, stability is what we need to thrive, but right now uncertainty is curbing our ability to plan and grow. Trade policy changes have created a mixed economic picture. While some domestic industries like manufacturing may have experienced short-term gains, export-dependent sectors are struggling with reduced competitiveness. Retaliatory actions from major trading partners such as the European Union have further complicated the landscape, with targeted measures on key U.S. exports threatening initial policy gains. For consumers, increased tariffs have driven potential price surges, while businesses have resorted to diversifying supply chains or absorbing higher costs, solutions that often come with significant drawbacks. Policymakers are now under pressure to balance domestic priorities with global economic stability as the effects of this trade conflict continue to ripple through economies worldwide. The much-anticipated merger between grocery giants Kroger and Albertsons, first proposed in 2022, has officially unraveled amidst a flurry of lawsuits and finger-pointing. The companies had argued that their $24.6 billion merger would help them compete with industry heavyweights like Walmart and Costco. However, regulatory roadblocks and internal conflicts have led to the deal's collapse, with both companies now accusing each other of breaching their merger agreement in court. Kroger, in new court filings with the Delaware Court of Chancery, has alleged that Albertsons undermined the merger by secretly collaborating with C&S wholesalers. The grocer claims Albertsons attempted to force Kroger into divesting more stores to C&S, a move Kroger says was outside the agreed terms. Additionally, Kroger asserts Albertsons had been planning to sue them long before the merger officially fell apart in December, citing the filing of $600 million termination fee lawsuit immediately after the deal's collapse. Albertsons, on the other hand, maintains that Kroger's failure to honor the agreement doomed the merger. Kroger's self-interested conduct doomed the merger, and we are now focused on returning value to Albertsons shareholders to compensate for their losses, the company stated. The proposed merger faced significant opposition from regulators, including the Federal Trade Commission, known as the FTC, and state governments in Washington and Colorado. Both parties argued the deal would reduce competition, raise prices, and lower wages for workers. Their concerns were exacerbated by Kroger and Albertsons' plan to divest 579 stores to C&S wholesalers, a company regulators was ill-equipped to manage such a large acquisition. Judges in Washington and Oregon issued rulings halting the deal in December, citing these regulatory concerns. Despite this, Kroger continued to express optimism about the merger, stating it planned to re-engage with the FTC, anticipating a more merger-friendly stance under a different administration. However, litigation from Albertsons quickly followed, with the company accusing Kroger of refusing to divest more stores or explore alternative buyers to meet regulatory demands. The fallout has left both companies with significant financial and reputational challenges. Kroger contests Albertsons' request for more than $600 million termination fees and billions in legal fees, calling the demands unjustified. Meanwhile, Albertsons is seeking compensation for shareholder losses, claiming Kroger's actions derailed the deal. The merger's collapse underscores the challenges of navigating large-scale consolidations in the face of regulatory scrutiny. Both companies that failed...
Start over.
Yeah.
Sorry, I moved it
Oh, no, you're good. Okay. For both companies, the failed deal serves as a cautionary tale of how misaligned strategies and mistrust can derail even the most ambitious plans. As the legal battles continue, the outcome will likely set a precedent for similar mergers in the retail and grocery space moving forward. And we've made it to our final story. The United States is grappling with an unprecedented surge in egg prices driven by a combination of supply chain disruptions, inflation, and the deadliest avian flu outbreak in U.S. history. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average cost of a dozen eggs in the U.S. rose to $4.82 in January of 2023, more than double the price from the previous year. Farmers have reported catastrophic losses, with over 58 million birds lost to the disease, disrupting egg production and exacerbating shortages. With domestic egg production struggling to meet demand, the U.S. has turned to European producers as a potential solution to mitigate soaring costs at home. To address these challenges, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, known as the USDA, is actively negotiating with European countries to increase the volume of imported eggs. Trade agreements have already been drafted with several EU member states, focusing on loosening import restrictions and streamlining certification protocols. For instance, the USDA is collaborating with French and Dutch egg producers to ensure that European eggs meet U.S. quality and hygiene standards. Janet Nguyen, a spokesperson for the USDA, highlighted that importing eggs from Europe could stabilize markets quickly and provide a safety net for American consumers who are currently facing financial strain. Additionally, refrigerated transportation infrastructure is being upgraded to ensure imported eggs remain fresh during transit, a critical concern for perishable products. However, the process is not without hurdles. One major challenge is the strict regulatory framework surrounding agricultural imports. European eggs must meet rigorous U.S. food safety standards, which has delayed shipments while certification processes are completed. Furthermore, logistical concerns such as shipping delays, high transportation costs, and limited port capacities have slowed the flow of goods. Industry leaders are addressing these obstacles by investing in expedited inspection programs and forging partnerships with key logistic companies. For example, Maersk, a leading shipping company, has pledged to prioritize agricultural imports, cutting transit times by 15%. The economic and societal impact of these efforts could be far-reaching. Successfully importing eggs from Europe will likely relieve pressure on domestic supply chains, normalizing prices for consumers in the coming months. The USDA estimates that with consistent imports, egg prices could drop by as much as 25% by the end of 2025. For low-income families disproportionately affected by rising food costs, this reduction would ease financial burdens. Additionally, strengthening international trade relations with the EU may pave the way for future collaboration on agricultural issues. However, consumers and policymakers must remain vigilant about the potential long-term effects, such as reduced demand for U.S.-produced eggs and reliance on foreign imports, which could undermine domestic agricultural resilience. By balancing immediate market needs with strategic planning, the U.S. aims to restore stability to the egg market while fostering a sustainable, collaborative agricultural pipeline. This episode of SNEED-CAST Industry Update is proudly sponsored by our SNEED-Jet Titan 22 dual-head inkjet coder. It's designed for precision and versatility. The Titan 22 features a user-friendly 7-inch touchscreen and operates 2 half-inch print heads for seamless performance. Ideal for printing in a variety of vibrant colors: black, white, yellow, blue, green, and red. It works effortlessly on porous, semi-porous, and non-porous surfaces alike, including glass, plastic, metal, and boxes. The Titan 22 delivers high-resolution printing of alphanumeric text, barcodes, logos, as well as both static and variable data. Equipped with built-in counters, it makes marking date and time codes, lot codes, batch codes, and more simple and efficient. Reliable and versatile and powerful, the SNEED-Jet Titan 22 is the ultimate solution for your coding and marking needs. Like always, stay tuned for our next episode of SNEED-CAST Industry Update, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell down below to stay up to date with all of our great content, and let us know what topics you'd like to see us talk about here on the show. We look forward to hearing from you all. Bye, everyone.